Peace be to you all. Assalamu alaikum. Omar here, physician associate, health educator, and middle-aged endurance athlete and family man. So I just saw my last patient some time ago, so I thought I would use a few minutes before I leave this office to talk to you guys who are applying to PA school and even medical school or nursing school about the interview process. So congratulations if you make it to the interview process, especially as far as PA school is concerned. There's roughly 270 PA schools in the country, now called physician associates. And I'm speaking specifically about the U.S. That's where I am. So it's still not a lot of PA schools in comparison to medical schools and nursing schools. So the chances of you getting in aren't particularly great, but you know it's just based on the law of averages. It's a very competitive program, a very competitive process getting into PA school, and I think the average class size is about 40 students, and I think most schools get as many as 2,000 applicants. So you ought to stand out. The average GPA, I think, is something ridiculous, like 3.7 or something like that. For a lot of schools, maybe 3.5. And I don't know what the average GRE scores are, so I'll have to look that up. But suffice it to say, it's a very competitive application process. So if you make it to the interview process, you've done very well to get as far as you have. So you want to make sure that your interview process goes as smoothly as possible. So I'm going to talk to you guys very briefly about the interview process. So I'll tell you a bit about myself. I've been a PA for a little over 20 years. Right now I work for a private doctor's office. I was a hospitalist for several years before that. Before that, I worked at various clinics for several years, and I was also an adjunct faculty member. In that role, I sat on the admissions committee of a couple of very good schools, and so I got to be on the other side of the application process. I went through hundreds of personal statements, interviewed many applicants, so I can kind of give you guys some good suggestions on what makes for a good interview. So number one, be prepared to tell the person who's interviewing you why you want to pursue that particular route of study, i.e., why do you want to be a physician assistant? And it's always surprising how many people are able to articulate this on paper in their personal statements, but not necessarily articulate it very well in spoken word, in a conversation. So they start looking around like, well, I don't know, I knew a guy who was a physician assistant or a physician associate, and now I want to be one. So you need to practice, get with somebody who you can practice answering this question. I'll tell you guys a quick story about myself. I was applying to medical school. God, it's more than 25 years ago. And the person interviewing me said, why do you want to be a doctor? His name was Dr. Obed C. Trouth from Howard University. And I thought I knew the answer to that question. I put it in my personal statement, but I didn't really practice speaking it aloud. So I stammered. I was like, well, I gave the typical answer. I want to help people, which is magnanimous, but it's not. It sounds very trite. Everybody says they want to help people. He went on to say, well, you can help people by being a school teacher. You can help them by being a nurse. You can help them by being a lab technician or a scientist. Why do you want to be a doctor? And it kind of went downhill from there. But I was kicking myself because I hadn't practiced answering that question in a conversation. So you really want to answer. I don't know if this will show backwards, probably. Why do you want to be a physician assistant, or I need to change this, a physician associate, specifically, because there's many routes you can go in the healthcare field. And then once you answer that, you may get thrown another curveball question, a tough question that doesn't seem that tough, but a lot of people have problems with it, which is tell me about yourself. And people usually go down the list. Well, I've worked as this, I've worked at McDonald's, I've worked as a nursing assistant, I like to jog, I like working out. That doesn't really tell anybody about who you are. So you want to talk maybe about your core values. What's the thing that makes you unique from other people? What makes you tick? If you were to ask me to tell me about myself, I'd say, well, I'm a very goal-oriented person. I'm theistically inclined. They don't have the right to ask you about your religion, but I'm open about that. I'm very much a family man. So family values. Very dedicated to my wife and my children and my parents and siblings. So if you were to ask me to describe myself as a person, those are some of the things about which I would speak. So again, just shoot off some of those answers to a friend or family, so you can be prepared to describe who you are. I've had so many applicants who I'd interviewed and still interview, because I have students who shadow me. Tell me about yourself. They start looking around like a deer in the headlights. Also be prepared to answer questions like, how do you handle stress? Can you guys see that? So that's another one. Like it kind of befuddles people. How do you handle stress? Like they get stressed out by that question. So do you pray? Do you withdraw? Do you freak out? Are you one of these people who are kind of unflappable? Nothing seems to get to you. You kind of maybe figure out an algorithm on your head, but of how to deal with a potentially stressful situation. That's very important. I'm in my mid-50s now. I can tell you, PA school is one of the most stressful things I have ever done in my life, ever. It was. I actually lost hair. I had something called stress-induced alopecia, where your hair falls out. One of my erstwhile classmates had a nervous breakdown and didn't make it through the program. I mean, it's very stressful. It's not that long. It's only 24 months, I think 30 months at the longest for some schools. But it's the information comes at you very, very quickly. Anatomy and physiology, pathophysiology, pharmacology, then your rotations and it's one thing after another, and then you're taking the things at the same time. A lot of people can't handle that. Some people are accomplished you will be accomplished in your previous field, whether it's as an academician, getting your bachelor's degree, or maybe you did nursing or medical assistant or something before that. But PA school is a different type of beast. So how you deal with stress is a very important question that a admissions person want to know. They may ask you about some of your weaknesses. So, you want to make your weakness something positive, like, I just push myself to excel. That's a great weakness to have. Or, I'm just a selfless team player. So that can be a weakness. So something that actually is a weakness, but a good weakness to have. Also be prepared to answer questions like, what do you do if you don't get in? I had a student actually start tearing up because he says, well, why wouldn't I get in? If I don't get in, I'll reassess and reapply. Or maybe you can be snarky and say, well, I've already been accepted to 5 other programs, so I don't need your program. Somebody answered that on their medical school interview. I thought that was kind of cool. Another question they may ask you, why do you want to attend our program? So know something about the background of the schools to which you're applying. Maybe something in the history, maybe when the school was founded, their mission statement, something like that. To let the admissions, the people who are interviewing you know that you've taken some time to really research their schools and appreciate the uniqueness of their PA program. But that's it for now. During your interview, you should not be asked about your religion, certain health issues that you may or may not have. They shouldn't ask you about your sexual orientation. It's not their business. They shouldn't ask you about your race. You may have somebody who may be racially ambiguous. I've had people ask me this, what are you? Are you Black American or from Africa or something? What are you talking about? You can't ask me that. They shouldn't ask about your marital status or if you have children or not. They should not ask about your financial status. I had somebody ask me that when I was trying to get into medical school. How do you plan to pay for it? No, it's nobody's business. They should not ask you that. They shouldn't ask you if you've applied to another school before. Unfortunately, that's on some questionnaires. But that's it for now. I'll do a breakdown of the different types of interviews in a future video, inshallah. I hope you guys found this valuable. So again, I've been a PA for now a little more than 20 years. On my certificate, it says physician assistant. So we're now physician associates. Obviously, it's a rose by any other name is still a rose. That kind of thing. But if you guys found this helpful, I'll do more videos, inshallah, Lord willing. Please consider subscribing if you want some advice on how to become a PA and what my life is like as a PA. I'll be happy to divulge that to you. Take care. Peace.